Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Hey there, folks. My name is Brad Varnell, and this is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. And I just want to welcome all of you Infinite Crypto Cruisers. You know, this just came to my mind as I just started this intro. The Infinite Crypto Cruisers came around back when I first started this YouTube channel. I was looking, like there's a lot of different YouTubers out there. BitBoy had his squad, Chico Crypto had his army, and I was looking for, something a word that we could use as a community to kind of identify ourselves. And so, man, me and my son and my dad and my wife, and even a lot of the community chimed in on what would be a good word to add to the Infinite Crypto to create a community. And it was actually my dad, one of my favoriteest people that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing on this earth, that came up with the word cruisers. And I thought to myself, man, that's a great word, because the word cruisers can really mean so many different things. Like I might say, Infinite Crypto Cruisers, and you think about, cruising along in a yacht, or on a cruise ship. Somebody else might. I usually, when I think of the word cruisers, I kind of go back to my childhood and I think about some of the 1970s muscle cars that I loved, like the 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner 440 cubic inch. One of my favorite cars, one of my dream cars, my very, very, very first car was a 1970 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, 350 cubic inch V8. It was just the base model, nothing super special, but I really love. They made a very souped up version back then, a 1970 Olds Cutlass Supreme 442. And then they made it also in a convertible version. And so that 70 Olds 442 convertible, one of my dream cars. Other people might even think, hey, you're cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet up in a private jet. So I really embrace that word cruisers. And I haven't used it a ton, but part of the reason that I'm bringing it up, folks, is we are getting ready to launch our Shopify store. And we're going to have some cool shirts like this one here that my wife made for me that says Infinite Crypto, Infinite Freedom. We're going to have some shirts that say Infinite Crypto Cruisers and some different stuff that kind of brands the company. So I just kind of wanted to get used to and bring that back up, man, that we are the Infinite Crypto Cruisers. You guys are going to have an opportunity, those of you that are on this channel all the time, like Eric and Tim and Dave and Paul, those of you that have made comments, those of you that are, the ride or dies that are in the inner circle, are going to have an opportunity to get some of this gear if you want it. I understand, like, I'm full transparency. I don't love wearing a lot of different stuff that advertises other people's businesses. I just don't. I've never been a huge one to wear like sports jerseys and stuff like that. So if that's not your style, no problem. But if you do enjoy wearing some shirts that are logoed and would enjoy, representing the Infinite Crypto Cruisers brand, you're going to have the ability to do so here very soon. So that's kind of off topic. Just came to my mind right as I made this introduction, but let me get right into it, folks. Monday morning, and yesterday was one of the worst days that we had seen in the crypto market in a long time, and it freaked a lot of people out. Now, Monday morning is not about crypto, but at the same time, I think I heard I was listening to a gentleman talk the other day, and he made the comment like somebody was doing a speech and then 9/11 happened. And of course, he didn't just go on and do his speech like as if nothing had ever happened. Or if you were in an auditorium doing a speech and somebody, unfortunately had an episode, had a heart attack, or had a major, catastrophe like that happen, inside the auditorium, you wouldn't just, shoot them out on a stretcher and go on with your planned talk. You would have to mix things up. So, I got to thinking about it. I'm going to talk about what this video is supposed to be about, but I also do want to, just very quickly, mention for those of you that are watching this video that are maybe freaked out about crypto. I had a couple of great conversations with people yesterday where I had to kind of calm people down, and I really had to let people know that it was an incredible buying opportunity. And I put my money where my mouth was. I got a hold of some funds that really probably not necessarily, I don't always practice what I preach. They weren't necessarily the best funds in some ways to potentially use to buy this dip with, but at the same time, this dip was just too good to ignore. So I put more money into crypto yesterday than I might have. I mean, not that I've ever put in crypto in one day, but very close to the most that I've put into crypto in one day, and definitely the most that I've put into crypto in probably the last couple of years. And it's already paid off. It's already flipped around to a certain extent. I'm not killing it. And a lot of this stuff was a swing trade. I'm planning on, the market recovers. I think Bitcoin, every time it's dipped down into the 50s, has recovered, gone back up into the 60s fairly quickly. Not a crystal ball, not financial advice. I think it's going to happen again. And I think that most of these altcoins that I bought, like I bought Polkadot at a little over $4. Well, I did a lot of research on Polkadot. Polkadot last October was the last time that it had dipped down below $4, and it only stayed below $4 for a couple of weeks. And then it wasn't very long at all before it was 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, back in March of this year, it peaked at about 10, going on $11. So I very much believe that my $4 Polkadot probably going to be $5, $5.50, $6 in a relatively short period of time. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. That's what I consider to be, a short period of time. Anyways, so folks, don't let things like yesterday scare you out of the market. That's what they're designed to do. Half the time, the markets are manipulated by the elite and the people that want to slurp it up. I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. The JP Morgans and the Charles Schwabs and the Warren Buffetts, I'd almost guarantee you Warren Buffett's never said a good word about crypto in his life. I would bet my whole net worth that he's got some Bitcoin stored up and that he's buying in the background. He's buying some of this stuff. And then once he's got all he wants, then at some point in time, Warren Buffett's going to come out and start talking about how great crypto is. But folks, these guys, the elite of the world, they have not had an opportunity to slurp as much of this stuff up as they want, and they're buying like crazy. I guarantee you people with money, people in the know, bought up a ton of stuff yesterday on this dip. So, with that, that I'm not going to say too much more. I know you guys are in it to win it. You're in it for the long term. Stuff like yesterday, hopefully, isn't even really a blip on your radar screen. Like, I don't want to offend anybody here as far as like, I don't want to act like I was happy about yesterday, but at the same time, I was like, all right, man, what an incredible opportunity. Like, I wasn't happy, but at the same time, I choose happiness. So I couldn't control the dip. It happened. And so I had two choices: to either be freaked out and unhappy and miserable and look at my portfolio down and be sad about it, or I could look at it as an opportunity. And that's what I chose to do. One of my good buddies that I was on the phone with yesterday, this guy's got, a $300,000 portfolio that turned into, 250 grand almost overnight. And he was sad. And I told him, hey man, keep your eye on the prize. Doesn't matter whether your portfolio is worth 100,000 or 400,000. The goal is to have a few million come the end of the year. And you're going to do that. Your portfolio, this guy's got like 17,000 DOT. And his average cost is around $7. He's getting 11 or 12% interest on it. So he's earning, whatever 11% of 17,000 is, 1,000, 1,100, call it closing in on 2,000 DOT a year in interest. And DOT is going to be a $50, $60, $70, $100 token towards the end of this bull run. He's going to be very excited. I told him, hey, DOT goes up to, $80, and 80 times, 1,700 is, I can't even do the math. It's about $1 million just with his Polkadot. And that doesn't include his Bitcoin, his Ethereum, his Matic, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, but he literally called me right out of the blue. I saw his phone number popped up on my phone, and it's him. And I know I want to take this call because he's a good friend, and he's a big part of the community and done some one-on-one coaching. He's invested in a lot of private sales. And so this is an important guy to talk to. So I dropped everything and just answered the phone, and he was freaked out. The funny thing though, in his freaking out, is he bought $10,000 more in crypto yesterday, during this dip and during this panic. So even though he was panicked, he didn't let it affect his, judgment entirely. He bought another $10,000 worth of Polkadot, because if he thought Polkadot was good at $7, $8, $10, then he really thought it was good at, $4. Anyways, on to the topic of the day. And I'm going to pull out my phone here real quick, and I want to give you guys a little quote that I came across that really kind of inspired this topic today. And so I apologize for my lack of being ready to go. Here we go. So, your willpower will always lose to what you really believe about yourself, by Trevor Mowad. Let me say that again, folks. Your willpower will always lose to what you really believe about yourself. And, you can see here the topic of today's video is, your willpower is not enough. Learn what will create lasting change. The title of this video basically says it all. So let's get right into it. Why isn't your willpower enough? Well, real quickly, you have two minds. You got a conscious mind, you got a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is much more powerful than your conscious mind. You might think that you're consciously making decisions and doing things, where you're making all of the choices, but it's very much not true. Your subconscious mind is like a computer program. And if your computer, like the computer that you're watching right now, or the phone, whatever device you're on, if your computer program that you're watching this on is set up to do a certain set of things and has a certain set of parameters built within it, if you try to move outside those parameters and try to move outside of what it's supposed to do, what it's been programmed to do, you're going to get an error message. And what happens in life is we realize that what we're doing isn't working. And so through sheer willpower, we will try to make a change. We'll start trying to get up at 5 a.m. because we know that getting up earlier is going to help us to be more productive, but we're used to sleeping until 8 or 9. And you might get up at 5 a.m. for a day or 2 or 3, but eventually you are going to go and stay up a little too late. Something's going to happen. You're going to sleep in until 9 or 10. And then the next thing you know, 6 months has gone by and you haven't woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm going to definitely be reading, off of my notebook a little bit here. I took some notes. This isn't something that I can just totally just speak from memory, but I wanted to, another analogy that I think is so beautiful with this is your identity is the governor of your life. Well, what is your identity? Well, your identity, in a sense, is like what you think and what you believe of yourself. What is a governor? Well, all of you probably know, like there's governors that you can put on your car that will only allow it to go a certain speed. Some people do a governor for their teenage kids. They might have a car that can go 100 or 120, 150, whatever. But there's a way where they can put a governor on the car to where the child cannot go over, say, 80 miles an hour. Well, your identity is the governor in your life. So if you've been raised, let's just, for one example, let's just say that in your mind, you believe you can make, let's just call it $100,000 a year. Let's just say that you believe $100,000 a year is a lot of money. And from the background and the things that you've learned in your life and the things that you've been taught and the way that your parents and your influencers have felt, you really believe that $100,000 is an incredible amount of money. Like you would really be, the bee's knees if you were making $100,000 a year. Right now you're making 50 or 60. And so that governor in your life will allow you to work hard and to get to $100,000. But what's going to happen, folks, if you ever get above $100,000, say you get up to $125,000, $150,000, what will happen is the governor in your life will bring you back to the $100,000. Same thing with your weight. How many people, I'm one of them, how many people do you know that have really worked out hard 2, 3, 4 months, lost a bunch of weight, really gotten in great shape, they look phenomenal, and then you see them 6 months, a year later, and they've gained all of the weight back? Well, folks, the reason that happened was because they have a governor on their life, their identity. They believe that they're only supposed to be a certain amount of fit. They believe they're only supposed to have a certain amount of wealth. And so the other analogy, the other way that I like to present this to you folks is let's just say that right here in this office, I've got the thermostat set for 70 degrees. I like it kind of cool. We're out here in Las Vegas. It's hot. So I've got the thermostat in my house set for 70 degrees. Well, if that thermostat is set for 70 degrees, it doesn't matter if I open the window next to me and some of the hot air comes rushing in, the thermostat is going to take off and it's going to turn on, the air conditioning is going to turn on, and it's going to bring this room back to 70 degrees. And if something were to happen on the flip side, where all of a sudden we had some crazy storm come in and it was freezing outside, and I opened the window and all of a sudden 35, 40 degree air came rushing in and the temperature went significantly below 70, the thermostat would bring it back up to 70. So another good word for your identity is the thermostat of your life. What is your thermostat set to? What do you believe you are worth? What do you believe that you are capable of accomplishing? The thermostat in your life will always regulate you back to where you're comfortable, back to where you believe you can be or should be. You're never going to outperform your identity for any length of time. And the reason that I'm talking about that is because I need to improve my identity. I'm working hard in a lot of areas of my life. I have these governors on my life. I have a governor on what I think a lot of money is. I have a little bit of a governor on my weight, and I'm working through it. So this talk is definitely, the right time for me too. But when I heard a little bit about this, it just made so much sense to me, because I would be willing to bet that every single person listening to this has had this happen in their life in some area or another. Some of you maybe really have the ability to dream huge numbers and be able to think about having millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions or even a billionaire. Some of you might not have a governor in your finances, but maybe your health is something that you have a little bit of a governor in. Maybe your health is something where you've yo-yoed back and forth. You've gained and lost the same 20 or 30 pounds over and over in your life. Or maybe relationships. Like, maybe you've gone through 3 or 4 or 5 different, major partners in your life. And you have this ability, like you start off a relationship, everything's great. It goes great for 6 months, a year, whatever. And then something happens and it fizzles out. And so maybe you have a governor in your life on your relationships. Maybe spiritually, you've got a governor. You can only grow so close to whoever, your God is, your faith. You can't totally let go. You get to a certain point in your faith, and maybe, for a short period of time, you break through some barriers and you really feel like you're growing closer to your maker and to whoever you believe in. And then you cool it back down and you go back down to, not reading your Bible, not praying as much, or whatever it might be. I'd be willing to bet that every single person on this call has had this happen in their life. And the reason that I wanted to talk about it is because awareness is half the battle. I may or may not in this, 20, 30, 40 minute hour talk be able to give you, enough information to solve the problem in your life in these areas. But I'm hoping that I can give you enough information to get you on the path, and that you are then willing to go do some research and dig a little bit deeper. And I'm going to give you some resources for sure. Right now, I'm still discussing the problem, and we're going to get to some of the solutions here, very quickly. But until you really believe there is a problem, then you're not going to be open to the solutions. You're not going to be open to doing any work in your life in these areas. And so I really, wanted to talk about this, for a solid chunk of time, and I wanted to mention here, back, once again, it's an internal thing. Your identity is an internal thing. So a lot of times in life, when we've had these breakthroughs and we've gotten above where our identity is for a short period of time, and then we come back down, a lot of times we blame it on external factors. Well, the economy dumped. Oh, so-and-so got elected as president, or this guy got elected as president, or I lost my job, or, in my business, I lost my best client, or, finances got tight. I couldn't afford to buy the high quality, healthy food anymore. And we can come up with 1,000 reasons why we got cooled off and put back into the place where we were comfortable, where our identity was comfortable. But folks, it's all a bunch of lies. External circumstances are almost always caused by internal influences. You don't realize that you're self-sabotaging yourself, but you are. Maybe you got a new job and you made more money than you've ever made over the last 6 months. You're killing it. But then you slowly start to do things that you weren't doing, or more likely than not, you were the guy that was working until 5 o'clock. And then when, the bell rang and it was time to go home, you stayed until 6 or 7 and everybody else left. And so you became the number one salesman in the company. But then after a few months and you were killing it, you were making money, you started to get a little lazy. And the next thing you know, not only are you leaving at 5 o'clock, but now you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm so good at this. I'm going to take an extra hour for lunch here. I'm going to do this there. The next thing you know, you're only putting in, 4 or 5 hours a day. And then a couple of months later, you're the bottom salesman on the totem pole, and you wonder why. Well, you made decisions. You weren't comfortable. You got up to this status. You were the number one guy, and you weren't comfortable there. Your identity wasn't of being the number one guy. And so you sabotaged yourself and brought yourself down to wherever your identity believed you should be. So I've kind of already gone over, like if you've ever been killing it at finances and then you sabotaged yourself, same with health. We talked about that. If you don't change the thermostat, you'll never see lasting change. So we'll go back to the title of this video. Your willpower is not enough. You have to change your identity in order to see long-term lasting change. And once again, folks, that is the whole point of this YouTube channel. On Wednesdays and on my deep dive videos and in the inner circle, we talk about how to create wealth. I believe that you deserve financial freedom in your life. You deserve the ability to wake up in the morning and hang out with whoever you want to hang out with. Go do whatever it is that you want to do. But you got to believe that. And that's why I'm such a big proponent. I've said it, over and over and over and over. I can help you make a bunch of money. But if you don't get your identity to the place where you believe you deserve that money and that you are comfortable there, you will find a way to self-sabotage and lose that money and to have it flee from you. And so Mondays, I know a lot of people skip the Mondays. They want to go straight to the Wednesdays and hear about what tokens we're buying. But I'm telling you, folks, if you had to listen to either Monday or Wednesday, I promise you, Monday is going to be more valuable to you in the long run, because the fact of the matter is, if you get this right, you listen to the Mondays, you get everything else right, you can listen to 100 different YouTubers and probably get pointed in the right direction and find a bunch of tokens that are going to go up significantly during this bull market. You can do your own research. Literally, if you listen to these Mondays and you got your mind right, you'd be able to go to CoinGecko and start doing your own research. You'd figure it out. Like, if you never listen to another YouTube video again, you'd probably be able to figure out some investments and kind of teach yourself. So, as much as I love the Wednesdays and all of the other stuff that I do, and don't get me wrong, I do believe that that is critical also, that I want you listening to those, but I can't stress the importance of, working on these things in your life and getting them just all the way fixed. It goes back to that banana story. I'll tell it super quick, but there's this guy that's got a hole in his yard, and he walking, one day, and he doesn't, he kind of forgets it's there. He doesn't see it. He steps in it and he breaks his leg. Well, obviously he doesn't want to do that again. So what he ends up doing is he takes a couple, of those red cones, and he puts them around the hole. Well, about 6 months later, he's walking along and his dog distracts him, and he looks over at his dog, and he ends up stepping in the hole and breaking his leg again. He says, well, I'm not going to let that happen. So the next thing that he does is he builds a little, like a little garden fence. He builds a little fence around the hole, and once again, he's playing football with his son. They're throwing the ball, and his son throws it over, off to the, further left than he meant to. And the guy's intent on catching the ball. So he basically, busts right through that fence and steps in the hole and breaks his leg. And the moral of the story is, fix the hole. Like, put some dirt in it, fill it up, get it done. Like, so many times we put a little Band-Aid over a big wound, thinking that that's going to heal the wound. And so the whole moral of this story, in a sense, is let's get the hole filled up and get it to where it's not a problem. If he would have just taken some concrete, filled up the hole, or some dirt, filled up the hole, that would have solved the problem once and for all. So rather than going through life fixing things with a Band-Aid and then having them bust open and come back to haunt us for years and years and years, let's get it fixed. Let's get it done, man. Let's win. Let's get to the point where we've got the right identity, we're doing the right things in life, and we're winning consistently. Because when you can get to that place in your life, man, you can affect change in 10 or 20 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people. And I believe that part of the reason you guys are attracted to me and attracted to this channel is that, yes, you want to create financial freedom for you in your life, but every single one of you that I've had the blessing to talk to and to get to know, which is most of you that are watching right now, all of you that have commented, on today's video, are people that I've actually spoken with and gotten to know a little bit. I believe that all of you have good intentions and want to help people as you create that financial freedom in your life, that you want to pay it forward. And I think that's part of the reason that you got attracted to this channel. So what do you do to change? What can we do to improve our identity and to get to a place where we actually can have these breakthroughs and maintain them? Well, one of the first things that you can do, I'm going to give you 3 things. So if you have a pen and paper handy, write down these 3 things so that they're really in your awareness and that you can go back and look at this. The first thing that you can do is get around people that are 100, 125, 150 degrees in the area of life that you want to improve. If you're in business and finances, and let's just say that you're a 75 degreeer in finances, kind of like what we talked about with the thermostat. If you're a 75 degreeer, but something happens that takes you up to 100 degrees temporarily, the thermostat of your life, the governor of your life, will bring you down to 75 degrees. But what if you were hanging around other people that were 125 or 150 degrees when it came to business and finances? that is going to raise your thermostat. And if you hang around those folks long enough, you stay in their proximity and get close enough to them, they are going to raise your thermostat up to 90, 95, 100. You might never get up to 125 or 150 like them, but you're going to get up to 100, 110. And we've all heard it say, your 5 best friends are the 5 people that you hang around the most, are what you're going to become like. So if you are hanging around nothing but broke people, no matter how badly or how hard you're trying to get rich, you're going to have a tough time. You got to start getting around some people that have created wealth in their life, because people that already have wealth think differently. And they're going to be, once again, it's going to raise your temperature. I guarantee you that old saying, if you hang around 5 millionaires long enough, you're sure to be the 6th. It's true. You can literally not hang around 5 people that are all millionaires without figuring out how to become a millionaire. I would be willing to bet pretty good money. Like, I'm a non-smoker. I quit smoking 25 years ago. Guess how many smokers I hang out with? 0. I can't think of one person that I spend any serious amount of time with that's a smoker. Now, so like, I have pretty good willpower. At this point, I don't think I would ever smoke again. But at the same time, folks, I'm not so naive and egotistical to believe that if I ended up having 5 friends that smoked pack a day and I hung out with them for a long time, I'm pretty sure I would end up going back to smoking. It would be like the frog in the boiling water. I would end up, for whatever reason, I'd end up thinking I could have one. I'd smoke 1 cigarette at a party or something. And long story short, I believe if I hung around a bunch of smokers, I would become a smoker. Same thing. If you are a smoker and you don't want to be anymore, start hanging around people that don't smoke. Fitness wise, I realized, my wife and I were talking about it, like, we don't have anybody in our life that we're really close to, in close proximity to, that we love and that is, part of our lives, that's in the kind of shape that we want to be in. And so that's why I'm making friends with Eric, and he's helping me and he's working with me. Eric Bernstein here is in phenomenal shape, and he's helped a lot of people break through some of those mental barriers. So, but I need to get more. Like, if you're at a dinner and like at the end of the dinner, it's time for dessert, and you're with a bunch of people that are ripped and have 6-packs and that are healthy. And the first person, when the waitress says, "Hey, would you like some dessert?" the first person says, "No, thanks, I'm good." And then the second person says, "No, I'm good. You sure you don't want a piece of this birthday cake?" Like, it's somebody's birthday, they bring out the cake. Half the people have the cake and the other people don't have any cake. Well, I heard a story. One of my mentors, one of my heroes in life, Ed Mylett, was talking about how he was at an event like that, and they brought out a cake, and he was like kind of tempted. He was going to probably have a piece of cake, but then they asked 3 or 4 people right in front of him, "Hey, do you want a piece of cake?" And all of these people that had the health and the body and the physical strength and everything that he wanted all said no to the cake. And so when it got to him and they asked him if he wanted a piece of cake, he said, "No, I don't want a piece of cake." He was very transparent that if the first 3 or 4 people in front of him had said, "Yeah, give me a piece of cake," he might have very well had a piece of cake too. So folks, you got to get around people that are higher above in life than you are and where you want to be, whether it's health, finances, relationships. If you have a marriage and you want your marriage to get better, you want to start hanging around some people in life that have great marriages. Go find somebody that's been married for 25 or 35 or 45 years and figure out how they do it. Long story short, folks, get around people that are higher, that have a better thermostat than you, and you will raise the identity in your life. The second thing that you can do is shock your system. So when you have these limiting beliefs and you have these things that are governing your life, you can't just tiptoe your way in to overcoming them. In other words, like if you're standing there at the ocean's edge and you put your little toe in and it's pretty cold. And so if you're one of those guys that like walks in until you're, 6 inches in the water, and then you stand there for a couple of minutes, and then, a couple minutes later, you walk up to your knee, and then a few minutes later, you walk up to your waist, and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, 20 minutes later, you're finally submerged. That's not going to work in this area of your life. You got to get rid of that mindset. You got to bust through the wall. You got to break through it. You can't just, hammer your way gently through the wall. You just got to bust through it. You got to do something that'll shock your system. So whether that's wealth, health, finances, relationships, you got to figure out what that is for you. So for me in my health, one of the things that's been a big shock to my system and it's helped me a lot is Andy Frisella's 75 Hard program. I just started it up again. I'm on day 4. What do? I do 2 45-minute workouts every single day. One of them's got to be outside. I got to drink a gallon of water a day. I got to read 10 pages in a positive thinking, motivational, personal development type of book. I take a progress picture, and what is the last thing I forget now? Progress picture, 2 workouts. What? Yeah, and then you stick to a diet. So like for me with my diet, I don't eat after 8 o'clock. I don't eat any sweets. So I'm not saying that I'm totally sugar free. Like there's a little bit of sugar in ketchup. So, I have a little bit of sugar in some things, but I'm also tracking my calories. Eric put me onto an app called Lose It, where I'm able to track all of my calories. And so I put in my height, my weight, my measurements, everything that I needed to, and it spit out a number where if I follow this number, I'm going to lose in the ballpark of about 1.5 pounds a week. So I do throw a little bit of stuff like ketchup in, but I don't care if I got 1,000 calories at the end of the day. I'm not going to eat a Skittle. I'm not going to eat one M&M. I'm not going to eat any sweets, cakes, donuts, anything like that is just processed garbage. I'm not eating it. And if I do, in integrity, I'm going back to day 1. So you probably heard this story before, but one of the first times that I did this, I forgot to take the progress picture on day 18. So I had to start over. It took me a couple of months that first time to actually start over. But the next time I did it, I swore I would not forget to take my picture. It's the silliest thing. It's the easiest thing out of all of them. And that's one of the reasons that it's there, folks. I don't want to harp on this for too long, but long story short, on day 42, the next time, I forgot my picture. I woke up day 43 and I'd forgotten my picture. 42 days of 2 workouts a day, drinking a gallon of water, reading my book, taking my progress picture, all ruined because I didn't take a picture. But what did I do? I started over that time. I'd learned my lesson. I started over on day 1 and I got back on the program. And then about 2 weeks before, so at about day 60, roughly, I broke my leg. Like I literally broke my leg, folks. And I broke my leg during the first workout. During the first workout of my day, we were playing football over at a park. And I won't go through all of the details, but I just, I landed wrong, put all of my weight. I broke my leg. I'm laying there on the concrete, looking up at the sky. My son's grabbing my car and bringing it down to the park. My wife's taking me to the emergency room. And the first thing that I told her was, hey, if they get me out of this hospital today, I'm finishing this program. I was 60 days in. I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And thank God the break was something where it wasn't a clean break. It was a crack. And I forget the name of the bones, but going from your ankle to your knee, you have your real thick, the real thick bone, and then you have like a smaller bone that's kind of a stabilizer. It was the smaller bone that I broke. And I guess, it was pretty much a clean break, but long story short, it didn't keep me in the hospital overnight. They wrapped it up. They did what they were going to do. They got me home. And you know what I did when I got home? 5 o'clock at night, still had, probably 3/4 of a gallon of water to drink and 2 workouts to do, one of which had to be outside. I went outside and I started lifting my weights, doing my dumbbells. So for the next 2 weeks, I couldn't hardly walk, but I still hobbled outside and I lifted weights and I did whatever I could do, for 2 weeks because I was going to finish that program. So that was a shock to my system. Like if you're looking for a breakthrough in your spiritual life, but you haven't been to church for 5 years, a shock to your spiritual system could be that you go find a church and you start showing up at church every time the doors are open. One of my pastors, Pastor Doug, has told me for a long time that when new Christians or new people really come to God, and especially if you're going through addiction, if you're going through drug addiction, alcohol addiction, pornography addiction, pain killer addiction, pain pills or prescription medicine addiction, all of that stuff, that when you first get into church, man, you got to immerse yourself in it. You can't just go, every once in a while on a Sunday or even every Sunday. Go on Sundays, go on Wednesdays. Like my church has a Sunday service. They have a Wednesday night verse by verse Bible service where they go like right now we're going through the book of Romans, and then they've got a Tuesday night called intercessory prayer where people just go and get together and they pray for other people, ask people to pray for them. They've got a Thursday night, what's called a Thursday night set free, which is basically like our church's version of a 12-step program, if you will, based on spiritual biblical principles. So, like there's people that come into the church and they need to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. And whatever it is that you got to do to shock your system is how you can break through some of these barriers and create lasting change in your life. The third thing is do things that make you believe you deserve more. So once again, I've mentioned this gentleman many times. This book here by Ed Mylett is called The Power of One More. And one of the ways that he changed his identity when he was a young man and was struggling with this is he came up with this concept of the power of one more. If he's at the gym and he's doing 5 sets of 10 reps on the bench press, every single set he does 11. If he's running for 45 minutes on the treadmill, when it comes to 45 minutes, he does 1 more minute. If he's down on the ground doing 50 push-ups, when he hits the 50th push-up, he yells out 1 more and he does 51 push-ups. If he's at home in business, if you're working and you're like, say you're making sales calls or you're making contacts, when he started doing this, he would start making 1 more contact every single day. And folks, it might not seem like that big of a deal, but do you realize, folks, like say in business, let's say that for me, let's say that I'm reaching out to 10 projects a day and I want to, try to persuade them to, do a video with me and be part of this YouTube channel. You realize that instead of doing 10, if I just do 1 more, if I do 11, let's say that I'm working 5 days a week and taking a couple of weeks off. So that would end up being, 5 days a week times 50 weeks is 250 more contacts that I would be doing, more so say than the next YouTube channel over. Or if you're in sales and you're making 10 sales calls a day and then you just do 1 more, you do 11 and your coworkers are stopping at 10. That's 250 more sales calls a year that you're doing, 250 more contacts. Do you think that that's going to affect your your ability to be successful? Absolutely. And then compound pounding, as Ed Mylett says, you do that for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You realize over the course of 10 years, just by doing 1 more, that's 2,500 more contacts you've made. Do you think if you and me start at the same place today and over the next 10 years, you do 2,500 more calls than I do, make 2,500 more contacts, that you're going to be more successful than me? Absolutely. But more importantly than that, folks, you are going to believe that you deserve the success that you have. When you do 1 more, you're going to believe that you deserve it. When you're at the gym and I quit at 45 minutes and you go 46, you're going to believe that you deserve to have a better body than me. You're going to start to raise that identity in your life. And so this man here, Ed Mylett, I tell you, he has been more instrumental in my life than probably any other man on the planet. There's another gentleman named Myron Golden that is quickly moving up in the ranks too. Those are my two guys. But, Ed Mylett has everything that I want to have. He's a little older than me. He's about 52, but he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Very incredibly successful entrepreneur. He's got two incredible children that are, 20, 21 years old, in that ballpark. There's a couple of years between them. His son, in fact, just graduated from college and is moving into being a professional golfer. And so that's kind of fun to watch that progression. And so right now is probably a good time, Josh, if you want to throw that link into the video. This man wrote a couple of different books. I've said this one here. We're going to put a link to this book, Ed Mylett, The Power of One More. We're going to throw a link in the description. It's not there yet. But if you want to go get The Power of One More, I highly, highly recommend it. And then if you go into the description right now, this is a book that's only about 100-page book called Maxout. And if you go to this link right now, there is a way that you can get the book for free. You just go to the website. When you're checking out, you put in the code Maxout, and he will send you this book for free. And I highly recommend that you go take advantage and get these two books and read them. I'm reading a different book right now for my 75 hard. But I'm almost through with it. And once I'm done, I'm going to go back and reread this myself. And then, maybe as an inner circle thing, maybe we create like a book of the month or a book of the every 2 months or whatever. I know there's people out there that don't love reading, but maybe we take a book like this in the inner circle and we all do it, kind of as a group. And then that can be something that maybe we discuss for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes in the inner circle, like what we've learned from the book, how it's impacted us, what action steps we've been taking because of the book, and so on and so forth. So those are the 3 things that you can do right now when we hop off this call. Figure out how can you get around people that are 100, 125, 150 degrees in the area that you want to have more success in and that you want to raise your identity in. Shock your system. I'm going to try to come up with more ways. 75 hard was just the way that came to my mind. The thing about 75 hard, I'll say this real fast, is it's not a weight loss challenge. So it's a mental toughness challenge. I don't care whether you're 180 pounds and ripped. There's still a mental toughness to this because you got to drink the whole gallon of water. Like literally, if you drink, it's 128 ounces in a gallon. If you drink 127 ounces, you wake up the next day and realize that you forgot the 1 ounce. You got to start back over on day one. I had a time where I read 5 pages in my book. There's one other time where I failed, but I read 5 pages in my book. Something distracted me, and I meant to go back and read the other 5 pages, and then I didn't. And I realized the next day that I'd only read 5 of my pages. I had to start over. There's going to be days where you got a long work day. You're going to come home and it's 12 or 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and you've only done 1 workout. And Andy Frisella, the founder of this, has said that many times it's been 1 or 2 in the morning and he hasn't done his outdoor workout. So he literally has drug his exercise bike out into the driveway, 30, 40, 50 degree weather, wrapped up in sweatshirts and stuff, and done his 45 minutes on the treadmill because he realized that the mental toughness that took was what creates winners. If you're the type of person right now that would say, oh man, 2 o'clock in the morning rolls around, I haven't done my outdoor workout, I'm just going to start over on day 1 tomorrow, you're not probably going to have the success that you want to have in life. You're not going to have the impact that you want to have in life. You're not going to create the wealth and help other people that you want to help. You have to have the mental toughness to keep the promises that you made to yourself. So, for the most part with this, every time I've failed, it's been involuntary. It was accidental. I didn't realize it until the next day. Full transparency, I did have one time where I was 50 days in, and I don't even remember exactly why, but I did make the choice to stop 50 days in. and I've regretted it ever since. This is the next time. So this 75 hard that I'm doing right now is the first time that I've done 75 hard since I quit 50 days in. I've completed the program about 3 other times though, and I think that messed with me. I thought, well, you've done it 3 other times. You've proven you can do it if you wanna, and I didn't do it. And it was a huge mistake. And so once again, I'm talking to myself. I know that until I conquer my mind up here and I have the power in my mind to get rid of all of this excess weight and get healthy, until I have the power in my mind to keep all of the promises that I'm making to myself, I'm never going to have an impact on the world the way that I want to. And I want to have a big impact on this world. And so, man, I'm telling you, that 75 hard challenge is the best thing that I know of to work on your mental toughness, to give yourself the ability to do something tough, and to succeed. It will change your life. If you go through 75 hard and you really do it right, it will have an impact on your life. I might not be perfect yet, but I can tell you that compared to a couple of years ago when I did the 75 hard for the first time, I am definitely a different person and much closer to becoming the man that I want to be. And so that's the only one that I know of right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you can find other things. But I would highly recommend 75 hard. Go get this book. It's free. Go grab The Power of One More. We'll have a link up here shortly for you, but you can also just go to Amazon or any place that you want and go grab that book, Power of One More. And then once again, you never know, like pastor at my church, my father-in-law, I was telling you guys, a while back, my father-in-law's had some health issues. And long story short, he needs a heart transplant. And we live in Vegas. The heart is going to end up being in San Diego. And they've told him that he needs once they call him and tell him that the heart is ready, he's only got about 3 hours to get to San Diego. Well, it's about a 5-hour ride in a car to San Diego. He can't really fly on a commercial airline. And so he wasn't sure what he was going to do. So the pastor at our church, we do 2 services, 9 in the morning and 11:30 in the morning, or 9:30 and 11:30 anyway, something like that. At the first service, the pastor didn't really say anything about it, but then God put it on his heart to ask the congregation. So, there's 500 people or whatever we have at church. At the end of the second service, the pastor at church said, hey, by the way, folks, we've got this gentleman that needs a heart transplant. This is what's going on. And does anybody have a plane, a private plane, a jet? Does anybody have a way to help this gentleman get transported when the time comes and go from Las Vegas to San Diego as fast as he needs to? And after that service, a woman walked up and said, man, my son actually lives in Vegas and he has a private jet and he would be happy to make arrangements and to help this gentleman of the congregation go get his new heart when it comes time. So the point of that, folks, is any question that you're not willing to ask is always no. So I'm going to put it right out there. If you know Ed Mylett, if you're good friends with Ed Mylett, please put us in touch. He's a pretty hard guy to get a hold of. He's a hard guy to get his attention. But I promise you, I'm going to be this man's friend. If him and I live for the next 20 or 30 years on this planet, if we have enough time, him and I are going to be sitting around at 70, 75, 80 years old on a yacht or on a private jet or doing things in life, going and having a round of golf. That's one of the things on my bucket list. This man has had such a huge impact in my life. And one of the most important things in the world to me is I would like this man to be a friend, not just somebody that's changed my life. So if you know Ed Mylett, or if you know somebody that knows Ed Mylett, have him watch this clip, try to introduce us. I would love you forever, man. The person, if there is a person that ends up being the one that actually connects me with him and gets me in front of him and gets me in a relationship with him, that would be absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to put that out there. You just never know who's watching these videos, who's listening, and you never know. I might get a phone call in a month or 6 months or 6 years and have an opportunity to become friends with this incredible gentleman. So with that, folks, thank you all once again for being here with me today. I really, truly do. I love you all, man. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I am rooting for every single one of us here to become the men and women that God meant for us to be, to have the impact on this world that we were put here to have, and to be great. God put us here on this earth to do something great in our lives. And that's the last thing I'm going to say, folks. I believe that with all my heart. You weren't just put here to exist. You weren't just put here on this earth to struggle and to barely be making it and to not have any impact on this world. It says in the Bible, we were made in God's image. And folks, I believe that God has a plan for your life, that you are meant to do something great. And if you don't believe that, that's okay. Borrow my belief. I'll believe enough for both of us. But think about that and really start to internalize that as you're doing all of these other things. God made you. You are special. You are one of a kind. Nobody before us in the whole history of this world or after us is going to be you. You're the only person that's gone through what you've gone through in life. You're the only person that's had all of the circumstances and the challenges and the things that you've done in life. You're the only person that can be you. And God has an incredible plan for your life if you're just open and aware and wondering what it is. We might not, I still don't even know exactly what his plan for my life is. I believe that this is a big part of it. But I'm sure that as I step through these doorways and move forward into this vision, that new doorways, new challenges, new things are going to come into my life. So just, I want to leave you with that. God loves you. And whether you love him or not, he still loves you. And there's nothing that you can do. I said that was going to be the last thing I said, but this is important too, folks. You gotta get this. If you're still listening to me, please listen to this next sentence. There is nothing that you can do to make God love you less. And there is nothing you can do to make God love you more. God just loves you. So whether you love him or not, he loves you. Whether you love him a whole bunch, he loves you. But God's love is not conditional. It's not based on what we're doing. I don't care if you hop off of this call and you go smoke some crack and you go steal from the 7-Eleven, and I get off this call and I go to church and I help a homeless man. God loves you as much as he loves me. So yeah, God doesn't want you to maybe do those things, and he's hoping that you work through it and that you get out of that. But I promise you, God loves you every bit as much as he loves me. You cannot do anything to make God love you less, and you cannot do anything to make God love you more. With that, have a fantastic Monday. I love you. I'll see you on Wednesday. God bless.